Hello YouTube, this is Frunner. I'm standing here on top of a high efficiency gunpowder farm. This farm produces just under 180k gunpowder per hour, or over 100 shulker boxes per hour. And this concept can be extended, so you will see actually a faster version of the farm that produces over 270k gunpowder. The time requirement is still moderate. It's under 20 MSPT, so it uses about 40% of the computing power. And I don't have a gaming PC, so I guess this would also apply to a server. And this farm has a relatively simple setup, and this is pretty much all that is to it, except for a little piece in the nether. We have dug a little hole that is about 50 by 50. Here we have a 42 by 42 setup of Methodzz creeper farm, which means creepers will spawn here on this platform, and this is the lowest level we can do without breaking bedrock. So you don't have to break any bedrock, and they will be transported immediately into the portals, go into another elevator, and all of the creepers come out at this AFK spot. Currently this is a carpet bot where the player would stand in survival, and the killing chamber is a boat looting setup designed by Emdy. The drops just go into a water stream, and in this world download there isn't really a storage system. Instead of the barrels, you would have item filters, shulker box loaders, and all the stuff. Whatever your storage is, it will have to work at roughly 20 times hopper speed. The point I want to make is that this is not in a perimeter. So otherwise, this is just a vanilla Minecraft survival world. And there is this misconception that you have to use a world eater, do a large perimeter to build high efficiency farms. And that's simply not true. You will have to do something, however, that certainly takes more than a couple of hours. You have to dig this hole. Now, obviously, from the shape you can see that I've dug it with world edit, but I'm pretty sure you know how to dig a hole. And you will have to light up all of the caves in the vicinity. But this is still a lot less work than building a perimeter. And let's face it, 180k is pretty good for a gunpowder farm. Let's have a look at the farm in operation. At the bottom of the farm, we have spawning platforms, and they are as low as possible. Every third block we have a boat that is resting on some sea pickles. And the setup is cleverly chosen by Methodzz so that creepers can actually spawn in here between the boats. Their hitbox, however, will always intersect the hitbox of one of the boats. And the sea pickles give the boats just enough height. The creeper goes into a portal. So whenever a creeper spawned, within a game tick or two, the creeper will be in the nether. Let's see what happens there. In the nether, we just have an elevator bridge. That means this portal is a bit lower than the portals on the outside. And this portal is located that it corresponds to the center of the spawning platforms. So all of the creepers that go into a portal in the overworld will come out of this portal, will be pushed to the outside, and into these other portals. Both outer portals link to the killing chamber. Mobs in general have a 15-second cooldown before they can teleport again, so they have to be in the nether for a moment. There is actually a rather small chance, it's even smaller if I go into spectator, that a creeper will reach the portal before its cooldown is over. And if this happens, the creeper will be just pushed out of the portal and go into a lava lake here and be killed. But 99.9% of the creepers will go in one of these outer portals and end up in the killing chamber where our player Carpetbot stands. The boat looting setup was developed by Emdy and Inspector Boat on a NoobTech server. This is the second improved version that he presented in his slime farm. And the principle is that you have about 40 boats at exactly the same level as the portal. And the creepers that come into the portal are immediately sucked into the boat. This way they won't count against the mobcap. So in addition to the 8 creepers that are currently shown in the mobcap, we have about 60 creepers in the boats here. And the player has all the time in the world to kill them using a looting sword. That of course has also mending, sweeping edge and sharpness. On the other side, we have some entities blocking the portal. So if we would just close it off, using solid blocks, the creepers could actually remain in this portal at the edge here, but this boat with a few entities in there will make sure that the creepers are actually sucked into these boats as soon as they have a spot available. And we also have a beacon that gives us regeneration, so the player won't die, because you can't eat if you're facing an armor stand, And the beacon also gives a bit of strength, although this is not mandatory. If the creepers are killed, the drops will just fall down and go into this water stream. And then you can transport the items to any storage of your choosing. To be able to access the farm, we have built a third portal, and this is a bit higher and links to the nether roof. So if we go through here, we have a portal on the nether roof, and we can of course go back. So this allows us to get to the farm and fly down to the killing chamber with an elytra. Now the price that we pay for this high rates, apart from the building time, is that the farm produces a bit of lag. Again, carpet is the best tool if you develop farms. On top, in the middle, you will see the MSPT value, which is the milliseconds per tick value. 50 is what the server can handle. So this farm would already consume 40% of the computing power of the server, which isn't too bad if you play single player, but it's quite a lot if you play on a server with maybe a lot of other players. And carpet can also tell us where the lag comes from, namely mostly from the creepers in the nether, because we have about 600 creepers in the nether pushing each other over the elevator. Now this lag would be almost non-existent if we would kill the creepers in the nether by fall damage, which is really fast, by building a portal on a nether roof and letting them fall something like 25 blocks to their death. However, in this case we couldn't use looting, and looting actually makes up for 60% of the farm. So if we would kill the creepers using fall damage, the farm would be down to 40% efficiency. In this case, instead of 180k, we would have something like 70k. Now this is still not too shabby. And if you are on a server where you have a lot of lag, you could just kill the creepers using fall damage, build a collection system on the nether roof, and you would still have a very good farm with a lot less lag. Now to verify that the rates are actually the same than in the perimeter, we will use Lightmatica to make an exact copy of this farm in a super flat world that has only bedrock. And of course we will paste the farm at exactly the same level as here, because the Y level decides how efficient the farm is. Remember, this farm had 179k. And here are the rates if we run exactly the same farm in the perimeter. You see this time we are slightly above 180k. So this farm is maybe 1% faster. The MSPT is a bit down because we don't have the overworld with all the spawning events and all the friendly mobs. But the rates of the farm are the same within 1%. You pretty much have to light up every single cave. You might get away with missing just a few spots, but if you miss a large portion of spawning spots, the efficiency of the farm will suffer greatly. Now some people would argue that lighting up all the caves is more work than building a perimeter. And I disagree. I have done this actually in 2 survival worlds, because I had an industrial district with a universal mob farm and I wanted this universal mob farm to work whenever I was building something. So I just went down and lit up all the caves. And the last world is basically the world download that you see here. Now I admit I have moved the AFK spot a bit. I have lit up the remaining caves using spectator mode and creative mode. But yes, the vast majority of these torches were set by me in survival mode. Of course I just copied the caves, so the rest of the area looks like a fresh survival world. And I can't really say how long it took. It was a while, but it took nowhere near as long as it would have taken to build a perimeter. And I didn't have to do it all at once. So in this setup here you would start with a hole, preferably using TNT or TNT dupers. And then you build a farm. You will need a few mods to see the spawning sphere, but these are client-side only mods, so you can install them on your client and use them on any vanilla Minecraft survival server. The mods I'm talking about are basically MiniHut and Twickaroo, and also Vylar, or WTHIT, how it's called nowadays. And you basically light up all the caves that you can find. Once you have lit up like 90% of the caves, the farm will already give decent rates. Not very high, mind you, but already decent. And then you stand at the AFK spot, hit away for a while, and then look around. I've removed the torches from this little spot. A lot of mobs spawn there, because the only places where they can spawn are the spots that we missed to light up. And our farm. If you enable hitboxes using F3 and B, it's very easy to find these spots that you have missed. So you still stand at the farm, you go into FreeCam. WTHIT will give you these information that you see at the top in the middle, which also shows you the coordinates, so you can note them down or make a screenshot. And once you have identified a few spots that you have to light up, you just go there and light them up. And you can do this at a leisurely pace. You don't have to do it all at once, but all the while your farm will become more and more efficient. We can use the carpet mod to see if we're done well with the spawn proofing. Now this is just a short time, but it's nighttime in the world. And you see that we have actually a few spawns that are not inside the farm. We have a few zombies, a few skeletons, a few slimes. So I have missed a few spots that I didn't spawn proofed. Also for slimes, obviously you need more than light. You will have to use water or lava or something like that. But these few spawns will actually not really impede the rates of the farm because we are so far away from the mobcap. The farm takes up only 15 to 20 mobs of the mobcap. Of course you can build this farm in a perimeter. I absolutely wouldn't discourage you from building a perimeter. It's fun, but it's also a lot of work. It has a high technical complexity. You have to make sure that the flying machines don't break and everything. Perimeters are a nice achievement and certainly a cool thing to do, but I was never convinced that you have to have a perimeter. The farms that you can build there are fairly limited. You can of course build all-course mob farms and creeper farms. You can maybe build drone farms and slime farms, but we have different concepts for that. For copper, farms based on the reinforcement mechanics are fairly easy to build and produce a ton of drops. While on the other hand, if you just need a few tridents, you can do just a little build in a river biome and you will get plenty of tridents. For slime you can build a farm in a swamp biome and it takes maybe 3 hours to build a farm that produces well over 20,000 slime balls per hour. You will need the mushrooms, but there is a design based on ENXO4's wood farm that produces those. Witch farms used to be a thing in perimeters, but nowadays they're totally outclassed by stacking raid farms. For example, ENXO4's raid farm produces an order of magnitude more drops than any witch farm and can be built anywhere. There aren't really a lot of reasons to build farms in a perimeter. Maybe if you just want to build a creeper farm that is really fast, why not use this one? Naturally, if we increase the spawning spaces, we can increase the efficiency of the farm. This version is 50% larger and produces 267,000 gunpowder per hour. And we're spawning about 108,000 creepers per hour. We're losing nothing to entity cramming or suffocation, or nothing relevant. But we are, however, creeping up against an invisible wall. Here on top you can see the MSPT. The farm needs 28 MSPT. So it already needs over half of the server processing power, more close to 60%. And this leads to issues with the armor stand. A lag spike makes it more likely that the armor stand will break. And obviously we have nothing gained if the farm is super fast, but the armor stand breaks after 30 seconds. The more lag we have, the more likely it is that the armor stand will break. It's a good idea to slow down the attack rate, because the slower you hit the armor stand, the more robust it will be against lag spikes. However, on the other side of the equation, we have the incoming creepers. We can store 80 creepers in this boat looting setup. Now if we spawn 20 creepers per second, which is about what this farm here gives, then we need to kill the creepers within 4 seconds. Otherwise, the boats will be full and the creepers will start cramming. If I set the attack rate of our bot to once every 1.5 seconds, we still get the full 180k. If I set the attack rate to 2 seconds or every 40 game ticks, the rate already suffers. And if we check the spawns, we spawn slightly over 72,000 creepers per hour. 72,000 creepers with looting 3 equals exactly 180,000 drops per hour. If we get 180k, this farm runs at full efficiency. However, with the slower attack rate, we run only at 167k, and that means we're losing quite a lot of creepers due to entity cramming. Now with this faster farm, we already see a drop in efficiency if we attack once every 1 second or every 20 ticks. You can also see that the mobcap is starting to fill up, and we get creepers here on the other side of the portal that start to cram. In this faster farm, we will only get the full rates if we attack maybe once every 16 ticks or once every 15 ticks. That means that already small lag spikes can break the armor stand. Size isn't everything. Choose the size of your farm wisely. But feel free to try if you can extend the farm. All you need is to extend the spawning area. Now this farm has a core, and this is the spawning area, the area that is also covered by portals, of 63 times 42. Again, we added 5 or 6 blocks on the outside for pack spawning optimization. So the total footprint is roughly 55 times 75. In the nether, we increased the size of the bridge a bit. It is now 6 blocks wide to accommodate the amount of creepers that we have. Now the command block here, in case you're wondering, is just to teleport me back to the overworld. That's not required for the operation of the farm, of course. The material list for this 240k farm isn't that bad, considering the rates. You will need about 2500 trapdoors, they don't have to be iron. You need about 2000 obsidian, which is probably the bottleneck in this farm. The tinted glass could be replaced with any opaque blocks, so you can use building blocks, dirt if you like. Some of those would have to be bottom slabs as to not be spawnable. The glass could be replaced with any non-spawnable blocks, again for example bottom slabs. You will need quite a lot of sea pickles, but they are easy to get and you can also build a farm. You don't really need 300 dispensers because you can dispense the boats in one by one and then break the dispensers after you have used them. So there you could get away with one if you like. And that's basically it. But now that we have established that the rates in the perimeter and in the overworld, if you dig down low enough, are the same, I will use the super flat world here to present the rest of the farms. Obviously the farm scales in size. That means if you make the spawning platform smaller, then you'll get less mobs, roughly in a linear fashion. So for example, you could build a very small farm with a just 21 by 21 core, so you would also have to dig a 21 by 21 hole. And the rates of this farm would still be 30k per hour. If you add a 10 by 10 space for the pack spawning optimization, these rates would go up all the way to 45k, so you would in this case gain 50%. But naturally, the larger the farm, the less percent you get out of the pack spawning optimization. But of course we could also use a different concept in the center. And here I wondered how far we could get with the traditional concepts using shifting floors. So let's once again position our player Steve here. Otherwise, the concept of the farm is exactly the same. These portals go to a nether elevator. Here you see the setup. We alternate soul sand and full blocks and shift them back and forth and the creeper will fall down. And here underneath we have water streams that will transport the creepers into the portals. And the shifting floors also block the light from the portals. So we will have light here only if the pistons are pushing. This farm has roughly the same footprint as our 160k farm, so about 45 by 45. Plus 10 blocks for pack spawning optimization. But it's not quite as good. It gives just under 90,000 drops per hour. It's a bit easier to build because you don't have to dispense all of the boats. But it does use quite a few pistons. You can check it out in the world download. With the shifting floor design you'll need to build a closed nether bridge because we get quite a few beds in here. With the normal nether bridge they would just go in the nether. And when you visit the nether next time you'll have 10,000 beds in there. But in this setup, the beds will either go into the other portal and come out in the overworld, which will block spawning of new beds. Or, if they are fast, they will fly through the portal and be killed in this lava. I will quickly show you a few more designs, basically to allow you to compare the rates to the farm I just presented. The first one is a very traditional creeper farm. It's one-dimensional, so it doesn't need portals, and on the server it will work without a second player loading in the nether. Cats scare off the creepers, and creepers are killed by wither roses. But the rates aren't that good, because we are at the mobcap. This farm produces 18,000 gunpowder. Maybe you could increase it to 20,000, but I think that's about the limit of this design. We can't really kill the creepers much faster, because we can't use fall damage, because this would mean to build the farms higher. And we can't use portals because they would light up the platforms. A natural question would be, do we really have to dig down and light up all the caves or build a perimeter to get those kind of rates? And the answer is no, you don't, but unfortunately the alternative isn't any less work. The farm with the highest rate on the overworld that I know is from Fortunate Diamond. This is his world download, video linked in the description. It produces almost exactly as much gunpowder as our 160k farm, but as you can see the size is massive. So this farm uses platforms with cats. With cats you don't have to flush the platform with water, creeper can spawn there all the time, giving higher rate. The creepers run away from the cats, fall down. The water streams will move them into the portals and again to a boat looting chamber. And we have a total of 196 platforms, which also means you need 196 tamed cats. So even though this farm is really fast, it's a massive, massive build. And to be honest, taming 196 cats and placing them in the right spot is also something that you can't do in a couple of hours. Let's basically look at the raids using a very simple example. This is a classic design by Gnembon, and this farm gives about 2000 gunpowder per hour, even though it has the same number of spawning platforms as our 160k farm. Now, of course, we don't use looting, which would be a factor of 2.5. Also, half of the time the platforms are covered by water. This gives another factor of 2. But still, our farm is more efficient by a factor of 18. And this is because we built the farm low. If we would build one platform here with a roof at the lowest possible level, which would be 70 here, over sea level, then this platform would spawn only 1/20th of the amount of mobs as if we would do it on bedrock, on the highest bedrock level, or rather the highest level that we can do without breaking bedrock, which is y equals minus 59, because the relation is inverse to the distance to the bedrock basically. This topic is way too complicated to cover it in this video. I will link a video from Logical Geek Boy and Methodzz where they describe how the spawning algorithm works and why it's helpful to build farms low in your world. But basically, as a rule of thumb, if you double the distance of a farm from bedrock, then you halve the rates. For example, if you would move this whole farm down, now the highest block is relevant, the highest block is 115, so the distance to bedrock is about 180. If you move this farm down by 90 blocks, which would mean the lowest blocks are already way in deep slate level, then the rates of this farm would only be doubled. And this of course means if you want to have high spawning rates with a farm that you build on ocean level or higher, then you just need a ton of spawning spaces. But only farms that you build very low down allow you to get high rates with a small size. And one farm that demonstrates this in the extreme is Ilmangos creeper farm that he built in a skyblock world. The lowest level of this farm really has to be at minus 64. If you would build the same farm on top of the bedrock, the rates would be a lot worse. And the principle of this farm is really easy. You have spawning platforms that are in this case at height minus 64, and you have a roof, which is the relevant height, at minus 61. And you will have a huge amount of creepers spawning in there, and the creepers are sucked into boats that are driven by minecarts and are suffocated. Creepers that are in boats don't count against the mobcap. And you see this farm is way too small because we get a lot of creepers standing around here because the boats are full with 2 passengers. If you would build this farm significantly larger, you would get a huge increase of rates because pretty much all of the creepers would be collected immediately. But this simple farm, as small as it is, produces over 14k gunpowder without looting and with just a very small amount of spawning spaces. And Ilmango actually scaled this farm up to produce 650k gunpowder, but he did it in a skyblock world where he didn't have any bedrock and could build at the lowest possible level. And if you compare this farm to Methodzz design, at Methodzz farm it's much more efficient because it uses more of the spawning spaces. Here Ilmango, each unit uses only 9 spawning spaces for a 5x5 area or 25 total spaces, while Methodzz uses 8 out of 9 spawning spaces. Only 1 space in a 3x3 area is covered. But again, this farm is a beautiful concept, but I don't think it makes sense to build this in survival. The design by Methodzz is far superior, even though Methodzz farm requires a second player in the nether to load in the farm if you play on a server. These type of farms can also be used to get bones and arrows. If you remove the trapdoors here, you will also get zombies and skeletons spawning. This is the little version of the farm that produced 45,000 gunpowder per hour. And I removed the trapdoors, and obviously you will get a few babies and also a few chicken jockeys in there, but not enough to fill the mobcap. So usually the mobcap is something like half filled. And if you look at the drops, the output of gunpowder has reduced a bit. We are now down to 38,000. But we also get roughly the same amount of bones and arrows and also rotten flesh, along with the usual drops from Universal Mob Farm, like bows, armor, carrots. I wouldn't recommend to build it that much larger, because at some point the mobcap will be filled. You won't be able to do spiders this way, because like the chicken jockeys, they won't be sucked into the boats. From the standpoint of the killing chamber, it makes things easy to get only mobs that are too tall, because you don't have to worry that chicken jockeys or spiders might somehow escape. Of course, you could just take this creeper farm and remove the trapdoors in a small area, which would convert this small area into a universal mob farm. So most of the farm would still produce only creepers. A few closing remarks that apply to all of the farms. If you hit an armor stand, you will need a regeneration beacon. If you are facing an armor stand, you can't eat using the right hand. Also, I didn't build storage systems and item filters here, because I think you know how this goes. What you see here is a setup that allows the carpet mod to count the items, a hopper facing into wool, and in this case, the hopper can handle a lot more items than usually. So if you are in vanilla survival, for this farm you would need about 25 to 28 shulker box loaders and a few item filters to filter out the zombified piglin drops. Let's have a look at the looting setup, and many thanks to Emdy for suggesting the setup. He showcased it as part of his slime farm, link in the description of course. The creepers are completely fenced in and the armor stand is on the other side of the fence, so you can replace it and align it without the creepers exploding in your face. Emdy also has a layer of powdered snow, which will kill the creepers if they are on the boat without interaction of the player, which is certainly a good idea just to reduce lag and to finish off the mobs once you stopped hitting. However, in some cases, this layer of powdered snow could reduce the efficiency of the farm. For example, if you don't have a strength beacon and use a netherite sharpness 5 sword, then 2 hits using sweeping edge will bring the creepers down to half a heart or something like that. And then they will be killed by the powder snow and drop just 1 gunpowder instead of up to 4 if you do looting. Therefore I had removed the powdered snow for these videos here. If you build this farm in an area where there's nothing else, then you probably don't need the powdered snow, because once you're finished killing the creepers, you're just gone from the area. It will be an unloaded chunk and not cause any lags. If you build this farm maybe in an industrial district, then it's certainly a good idea to add this powdered snow, just to make sure that the boats are empty if you're not running the farm. Let's talk quickly about armor stand replacement. An armor stand will break if you hit it twice in a short interval, like so. Let's say you set the interval of your auto clicker to 14 ticks, or once every 0.7 seconds. In theory, this is safe, but in practice, it could happen that the server experiences a lag spike. The server slows down, and for the server, it appears that you're hitting faster than you actually are. This could lead to the armor stand breaking. The slower you click, the safer it is. But basically, there's no safe interval, because let's say a player logs on, the server has to load new chunks. There's always a small chance that the armor stand can break. Maybe you can stand here for a few hours and nothing happens. In other occasions, you may stand here for 2 minutes and the armor stand broke. So you can build a small system to dispense in a new armor stand. And I haven't really wired this. You could use this with one button. We have here a dispenser that contains new armor stands. And first you would dispense the armor stand. And then you would use solid blocks to push in the armor stands, like so. Break the solid blocks and the armor stand is in there. So maybe this can be improved. But I think for the occasional dispensing in of an armor stand, this is fine. But the armor stand does have to be really in the corner, so that you kill the creepers that are on the left side of this portal. The pack spawning optimizations should be at the lowest spawn level. In this case, all the spawn platforms are at Y-59. If you would build a roof on the outside at this height, you would lose a few more % efficiency. In all of these builds, I have used tinted glass whenever I needed opaque blocks where you can't have any light go through. On the outside, you could replace all of these blocks with solid blocks, but of course you have to make them unspawnable, so you would need slabs on top here. So whenever I use glass in my builds or tinted glass, you don't really need that, you can replace that with other blocks. The world download starts at the largest farm. If you face east, eventually you'll see all the other farms. Here's a map of the world download using Xero's world map, which is a mod that I can really recommend. All of the farms go to the east. However, they are a bit shifted in some cases, because I try to avoid slime chunks. Slimes can spawn at any light level, so the slimes would spawn in the portals, and to be honest, I simply haven't tried what happens if we get slimes in there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you want to see more content like this, and see you next time. Bye bye.